much it's able to gather strength as it goes over the mountains of Hispaniola. But we do look to potentially have some impacts in the state of Florida, and this is something. It's been kind of a pretty big storm. It's not a hurricane yet, and it may never be a hurricane, but certainly, we do expect to see, some storm impacts. How significant, I think, remains to be seen. But make sure you have your plan in place. And make sure you have 7 days worth of supplies, food, water, and medicine secured and ready to go, and listen to the local warnings in terms of the guidance that you get in your own local community, and go to floridadisaster.org/get-a-plan for more information on how to prepare. I do think by this evening that track will probably be a little bit better. I think if you read the morning's advisory from National Hurricane Center, basically said, look, we're going to need a little bit more time before we really get that track. So I know they show the cone now, but I think that there's still a lot of uncertainty with respect to this storm. I want to thank some of the elected officials here today. We got Senator Wright and Representative Thad Altman. So thank you guys for being here. We also have a number of folks from some of the major companies. We got Scott Henderson from Blue Origin, VP of Tests and Flight Ops. Kelly DeFazio from Lockheed Martin, Director of Orion Production. Obviously Frank DeBello, Space Florida. Trip Harris from SpaceX, Senior Manager Launch Site and Mission Ops. Crystal Morgan from ULA. We just had a good launch this morning. Emmanuel Tormes from Boeing, and Mary Townsend from OneWeb. So thank you for coming. One of the things that I think, first, this has been an area here that we've seen tremendous growth in. We've got some of the best companies in the world here. Obviously, we have NASA, reinvigorated NASA, and there's a great mission with public and private working together to be able to expand our horizons into space. And we saw that recently when SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket launched from Florida's Kennedy Space Center to bring American astronauts back to the International Space Station, launching from American soil. This morning's launch to advance the mission of robotic exploration of Mars really demonstrates talent, ingenuity, and hard work. It was inspiring to see, and we know that as that goes in the coming months and makes its way to Mars, some of the information that we're going to get is going to be really, really neat. And I know they have plans to be bringing some of the samples of soil and other things they find back to Earth at some point in the future as more launches are done. So it's really, really significant. And one of the things I think that is so remarkable about this industry is, in the midst of the pandemic, they've continued to move forward. They took the precautions they needed to, but they've been able to continue to get the job done. And actually, I think we'll talk to some that have added jobs during this time period, which is really, really significant. We're also looking to secure the U.S. Space Command, the Combatant Command Headquarters in the state of Florida. The Air Force announced a new process in May. Initially, they had kind of focused on some other areas. I quite frankly told the president that Florida needs to be in that mix, and he agreed. So we now have 8 communities that have submitted nominations to the Air Force. I endorsed all of them. All communities have made it to the next round. This is something that's probably going to take months, but we really believe, whether it's here or heck, anywhere in Florida, but we really, I think, have the best options here, and I think it would be a great addition. I mean, we've got 21 military bases, we've got a great military industry, huge economic impact on the state of Florida, so we want to do that. But we also recognize the importance of continuing to allow the private sector to really expand the footprint and be able to lead a lot of these efforts. Commercial aerospace, which includes, annual sales and revenue of over $19 billion and over $3.4 billion in total wages, is a key engine for the state of Florida. We have over 540 aerospace establishments in our state, and in many ways, this is kind of the Silicon Valley for commercial aerospace. Now, Space Florida is a public-private organization tasked with bringing these companies to Florida and helping them succeed when they arrive. Fortunately, Space Florida has done a great job, but there's always more that we can do as a state to support the space mission. So today I'll be doing a ceremonial signing of HB 717, which will provide Space Florida with additional flexibility to issue bonds and provide financing for commercial space and aerospace projects. The additional flexibility includes expanding the definition of Space Florida bonds, adding environmental mitigation to the types of projects for which Space Florida may issue revenue bonds, streamlining certain bond proposal notification requirements, and reducing the maturity date for bonds issued by State Florida from 40 years to 30 years to make them more attractive to investors. So this new tool in the toolkit will greatly enhance the state's ability to access private capital markets to finance new infrastructure for both commercial aerospace industry needs and the expansion of the state's spaceport system for future growth. I'd like to thank the bill sponsors. We have Representatives Soroy and Senator Wright for their hard work and commitment to Florida's aerospace industry. This has been a very trying time the last 4 or 5 months for the country and really for the world, but here in Florida, it's been challenging, but I really think this industry has shown kind of the way of how you cope with challenges like COVID-19 while still being able to accomplish the mission. And even when there was shutdowns and all this other stuff, the aerospace industry continued to function. I know some functioned remotely, some you did a lot of creative things, but I think it's really been beneficial for the state of Florida that engine has continued to go. So I'll sign this real quick, and then what we would like to do is have a conversation about some of the issues that we see, in the state of Florida. Yeah. You guys don't all have to come. Whatever you want. However you want to do it. All right. So this is the
near and dear. All near and dear.
All right. There you go.
Thank you.
Tom.
Thank you, sir.
All right. This will be helpful. Good job, guys. All right. All right, so what I'd like to be able to do is hear from some of the folks from the companies about what they've been doing, how they've been working with the state of Florida, and some of the things that they may have coming down the pike. So Scott Henderson, do you want to maybe kick it off about talking about Blue Origin, what you guys are doing, how you've been working with the state?
Sure. Thank you, Governor. It's been a great partnership with the state of Florida. Our industry is growing here. Blue Origin's growing and hiring. We've added 1 million square feet of manufacturing space here on the Space Coast. We're building the first modern launch pad that's been built here at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in the last 20 years. We've actually been hiring during the pandemic, which is, in contrast to many of the industries around, is a strong indicator of how strong this industry is. So we've been able to add over 600 jobs during the pandemic. I think it's really important that the state is not only embracing the national security side of this business, but the commercial side. Those public-private partnerships are going to be huge going forward. Blue Origin is not only building a launch vehicle, our new Glenn vehicle that'll be a very impressive lift capability, but we also build engines, not only in support of the new Glenn vehicle, but United Launch Alliance's future Vulcan. So this is an American-made engine that will get us off the reliance on the Russian engines of the past. So, I just wanted to say thanks to the state and for your leadership, sir, in enabling this to be a mission essential part of the fabric here in Florida, which has really enabled us to keep moving through these challenging times.
And so you guys are poised, even having gone through this or still going through it, you believe you're poised for even more growth?
Absolutely. Not only as a company, but when we look forward beyond New Glenn and our engine line, programs like the Human Lander System that will take the next first woman and the next man to the moon, partnering with a lot of the folks around the table here on that is all part of our growth strategy. So I see really positive signs ahead.
Great. Turn it over.
All right, thank you, Governor, for bringing us all together because, earlier we were echoing at how important it is to allow this industry to keep moving, and thanks to you and your team for doing that. And with Scott here with Blue Origin, we're looking forward to being part of the team for that human lander system to Mars. Currently, we are busy working on Artemis 1, and we haven't missed a beat. So Artemis 1 is finished, and we are transitioning that, closing paperwork and transitioning that to NASA, and heavy working on Artemis 2. And that's in our design and development phase of the contract, delivering the Orion spacecraft. But we've also been awarded, last fall, we were awarded the production contract to have our follow-on Orion spacecraft built for the missions beyond the design phase. And we're excited about that because it does allow us to grow our manufacturing site and facility here in the Space Coast. In fact, we've contracted just west of the Indian River Bridge here, we've contracted to design and renovate what used to be an astronaut hall of fame or space camp years ago, and we need more space. So we are renovating that, and it has remained on track. The A&E firm, BRPH, Russ, our partners on that, they have stayed on track. We just finished the design, and the demolition is in work, and we will be opening that facility next summer. So we're excited to then transition some of our Orion activity from KSC proper out to that facility. One of the things too that we're staying focused on and know that the state and the governor here, thank you, is focused on as well as the STEM industry, right? So we're doing everything we can to include in the pandemic our virtual internship program. So we've stayed with bringing on our interns and hiring, as Scott mentioned, and doing it all virtual so that we can keep that interest and keep that talent flowing, because we do need it to fuel the future. So thank you for that.
So you believe that with as Florida continues to focus on producing people who are engineers and science, math, that there'll be a need for hiring?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We've continued to hire as well, but we also have seen studies and done studies that there's already a shortage. There's a massive shortage that is going to hit in 2025, and the Artemis program alone, just the Artemis program, is going to go well into the 2030s, and we need to keep fueling that industry for that talent. So. Like I said, Lockheed Martin is alive and well, and not just space, but all of our other main programs as well. F-35 also has a lot of suppliers in the state of Florida feeding the F-35 chain. So,
we kind of talked about you hear a lot about STEM, but then kind of like a young student, how does that then factor into the types of jobs that are available? If somebody comes out, with engineering, some of the things that you guys are really looking for, what are the kind of the compensation compared to like people that would be, in the humanities? I mean, what are the ranges of possibilities?
So from an engineering perspective, the nice thing about engineering, and it's one of the reasons that I was attracted to it, was you step out of your engineering, your bachelor's degree, and go to work immediately, and you have a pretty significant salary.
Yeah.
Other educational platforms, you walk out with a degree, and it's very difficult to find a job. When you do, the salary may not, have as high a compensation. So it's kind of that reward that, with the engineering degree. Now, obviously, we promote masters and doctoral and all of that.
Right.
But the engineering degree, whether it's from civil, electrical, mechanical, biomedical, there's all kinds of engineering degrees now that, you can walk out of 4 or 5 years and have a pretty significant career path versus some of the others, it's difficult. I will also say that, we've seen that the medical industry is having a shortage too. So that obviously has a good chance of walking out of the school system and walking straight into a job.
Yeah, no, I think with the needs that you see in this industry, and not just with space, with the other parts of your company and other companies, there's going to continue to be a demand for this. So not only you put yourself in a position to have good compensation, but you're probably going to be less likely to be affected, as the economy goes up and down with different things. I mean, there's just going to be a certain need for this. So we really stress the ability of expanding those opportunities here in the state of Florida. And also just, and I know some of the platforms you do on the military side. I mean, we have people that get very good technical degrees at like a state college and then have the ability to go. I know they would do it, at the, I know Northrop Grumman and St. Augustine, they had a lot of folks going in there, which was really good. So we want to stress that as well. But we're glad that there's a lot of stuff going on even in the midst of this, and I know a lot of people here. You guys have been a great employer for a lot of people. Dad, do you want to say anything?
Well, I just want to thank Space Florida for getting us together here. It's a very impressive group. We are on the cusp of being the Silicon Valley of space. We are a part of a renaissance, an enlightenment. And I think what's important is that we in the legislature, with the leadership of our governor, continue to fund the necessary infrastructure so we can prime the pump. We have so much opportunity, and if we step up to the plate and we create an environment and create the infrastructure in place to allow it to prosper, it's mind-boggling the direction we can go. So my 3 points would be infrastructure, infrastructure, infrastructure. That's a basic function of government. When we invest in infrastructure, we're not building a government program or expanding government. You're building an engine so the private sector can prosper. So I want to thank you of actually working miracles in the last budget. I would have never believed that we could have come through this COVID crisis that we have, and the loss of revenue, and for you to fund the. You really did a wonderful job, Governor, and really looking at what was a priority. And I had some things vetoed, so I mean it wasn't that I.
So did I.
Yeah, so we all did. But what a remarkable job you did. One of the best, maybe the best job I've ever seen in my 24 years of government service. So thank you for your work there. It was really, I don't know how you did it. You must not be sleeping because with everything else going on and then having.
Yeah. I mean, you guys, when you guys were in session, you guys were in session during kind of a normal time. Now, we were obviously monitoring this virus, but I think it kind of went from something that people were somewhat thinking about, take kind of moderate precautions, to all of a sudden, the country shut down. And that happened very quickly. If you look at what was being said in early March versus, the third week of March, it was a radical change. You guys' budget was done, under the kind of the prior assumptions, and understandably so. So we just had to hold it, see how things developed, and see kind of what the revenue picture looked like, and took as much of a chunk out of it as we could. And that included doing things, for me, that out of my stuff. I mean, I've used, for example, the Job Growth Grant Fund to help the airport here. So it was something that was that can be beneficial. But at the same time, I had to make choices and figure out that okay, we'll get through this year and hopefully get back on our feet and be in good stead. So, Frank, you want to make some comments?
I'd like to make two comments. First of all, the fact that let me start with a thank you to you for the leadership in navigating us through this the disruption of the COVID crisis, but more importantly for your quick response to this industry's request to you for the designation of mission essential for key elements of the industry. And while you referenced 540 primary companies in aerospace, there are some 17,000 companies that represent a supply chain beneath them. So the economic impact of that decision you made quickly really had a significant effect on the ability of this industry to continue to provide and contribute to the economic well-being of the state. So thank you. The other thing that I would comment, the Spaceport that we all are part of, and you had some of the best representatives of the commercial space industry around the table and the larger space industry around the table. But the Cape Canaveral Spaceport is the world's leading commercial spaceport. Since the shuttle retired, there have been over 144 commercial launches that have gone up from the Cape, with another 50 that are manifest between now and next May. And when I refer to the spaceport, it's not just the stuff that's behind the fence, but it's the larger freight and logistics system, the roads and the bridges and all the things that extend throughout the state that allow the flow of goods. And we're fully integrated with the port these days, as both Blue Origin and SpaceX have significant port operations that will be part of their future. So the concept of Spaceport and the power of the bill that you just signed, it adds another really key tool to Space Florida's toolkit, and I second what Representative Altman said about infrastructure. That's the key to our ability to help this industry to continue to grow. It will be an important leg of our economic future.
Great.
Let me close with that.
Absolutely. Thanks for all your service. OneWeb.
Oh, I'll just echo my thanks to Governor for your leadership, and also for Space Florida for hosting this event. It was a wonderful opportunity to talk to the industry leaders, and we're just looking forward to continued support. We're looking forward to getting our satellites produced, and we're really proud to be part of Exploration Park and part of this industry. So thank you.
And you guys had, I was there when we had some of the apprentices.
Yes.
Go. So that's a great, great
year.
model. And obviously we want to, have the school system here and the high school, and then obviously the state colleges. We want them engaged and understanding that if there's needs, these are good jobs. And so hopefully
Yes.
that'll end up working out well for a lot of those kids.
Yeah. Thank you.
Kind of getting untangled there, Governor. Joe Mayer with Lockheed Martin. I just wanted to echo the comments you made relative to STEM and the workforce and the importance of the apprenticeship programs, and the fact that it's a theme that you've picked up on. Lockheed Martin, we have lots in our aerospace company, we have lots of four-year degree engineering graduates doing phenomenal work and doing the things that we saw this morning. But there is an important role to be played for those with technical degrees, the associate degree programs. We have a collaboration with Eastern Florida State College, for example, and their aerospace technology program. Right now, we have over 30 graduates with associate degrees building the Orion spacecraft. They have their hands on the spacecraft that will take humans to the moon and Mars. Phenomenal. They've got a 2-year associate degree. But they've got the skills and the ability, and they did that by going through a 2-3 month apprenticeship program, completing their studies, and then coming on board with Lockheed to build that spacecraft for NASA. So it is a major piece of our future workforce, and I know that you've promoted that and advocated on behalf of apprenticeship programs here in the state, and so I just want to commend you for that. It's working, and it will work for the future.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Senator Wright.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you for being here today. I couldn't be more proud to work with Representative Saroy on this bill, and trusting our friends here at Space Florida to give them what they needed to move forward. As chairman of the Military Veterans and Space Committee in the Senate, space is very important to all of us, and I think it's an exciting time for Florida, where we're at and where we're going. And I want to champion your STEM program. We've been dealing with our leaders, our educational leaders on that, and we're well aware that we need to focus on that more, and the entire legislation is behind that program. It's going to set us forward and as a leader in this country. And I appreciate all that you do to support me and our Senate.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
you guys have done great work. We really appreciate it. But I just, the state of Florida, I mean, we're here to work in tandem. We want to be helpful. I think most of your companies, would agree that, as issues pop up, that they're easily resolved in Florida, maybe compared to some other places. And, we appreciate, that reputation, because at the end of the day, I mean, we think this is important for the country, both on the commercial and military side. Obviously, it's very important for the economic footprint here on the Space Coast of Florida. And just from a historical perspective, I mean, when we were out with SpaceX, in May, watching them, launch those astronauts back up from a very historic piece of real estate, makes you feel proud to be an American. And I know there's going to be a lot more great stuff coming down the pike. Today was one part of that, as that rover begins its journey to Mars, and we look forward to getting some information back on that in the months to come as that makes its landing. And then I know there's more stuff scheduled this weekend, depending on what's going to happen with the storm. And again, we're monitoring that. I think we'll have better sense of that track this evening. So we're really going to be paying attention to the 5 p.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center. I think you guys, if you followed it the last two days, first it was, maybe not even going to approach Florida. Then it was going to be on the west coast of Florida. Then it went back on the east coast. And so it's just, there's not enough certainty. It hadn't been organized enough to really get that track going. But I think they believe that as we get going later today, as it interacts with Hispaniola, that would probably give us a little bit more certainty. But, we're ready to respond as need be, but that'll help us get a little bit more with that. So, but this is really, I think, a good story just about in difficult times, continuing with the mission, obviously putting safety first, but really continuing to do a lot of great things. And so my hat's off to you guys. I mean, like for me to say it's essential. Of course it's essential. That was an easy decision. But really you guys took the bull by the horns and continued with the mission. And I think that's been important for our state. And I know it's been important for this region. So thank you for doing that. And we'll be back. We're going to continue to make this, real significant part of our economic, plan for the state of Florida is having this great cutting edge industry here. We'll see what happens with the U.S. Space Command. I think Florida's got a good shot on that. I don't think that there's going to be a decision made, in the next month or two, but perhaps by the end of the year, we could be in a position where we're able to obtain that combatant command here, which I think would be a great thing. So thank you all for being here. I'll take a couple questions before I head on back to Tallahassee. Anybody? Yes, sir.
Governor, President Trump this morning tweeted that he's calling basically for delay with the election over concerns with mail-in voting fraud. I wanted to get your reaction to that, and also would you assure the public that mail-in voting is secure here in Florida?
So I didn't see the tweet because I was out there watching the launch. But what I would say, in Florida, I think there's kind of some confusion about. There's some people that say you should just mass mail ballots to every address, regardless of whether they request it or anything. And I do think that creates some problems in terms of potential for fraud. That's not what we do in Florida. I mean, Florida has vote by mail. You can request a mail ballot. It is sent to you. There's verification, and it's a process that I think has worked. And so I support Florida's system. I would not support just mass mailing everyone a ballot regardless of whether they've asked for it, because I do think that ends up creating avenues for fraud, and I just think it's just integrity. I think people have questions, but that is not what we have in Florida. We have anyone can request a ballot by mail. You don't have to provide an excuse, but you do have to request it, and I think that is an important check to make sure that, okay, you've requested your ballot, they send it to you, and then obviously they'll wait to receive it and then make sure that you have it. But to just have ballots flying out there willy-nilly, I do think that would be a mistake.
Do you think that the election should be delayed?
So he asked for the election to be delayed?
He questioned if it should be delayed over concerns with voter fraud.
Well, no, I don't think in Florida. I mean, I think that, obviously I think voter fraud is an issue. I know you have, I've talked to some of the U.S. attorneys who are on top of that, and they're not gonna stand for it. I know some of our local folks, and so we're gonna police that. But I think that Florida will be in a good spot to go. I mean, Secretary Lee has, marshaled a lot of resources for people to be able to work the polls in case we have, because at the primary in March, you had in one or two counties, you had some of the poll workers drop out like at the last minute. And so we're cognizant of that. Now, I think that by November, hopefully we'll be in a different spot than we are in terms of the coronavirus pandemic. But there's going to be a lot of people that could be brought to bear to make sure that these polling sites are open, running well. So there's been a lot of effort that's been put into it. From all the supervisors of elections have been planning for this for a long time. Secretary of State's been planning it for a long time, and I think Florida will be ready to go. Yes, ma'am.
Rebecca from 13. Obviously, we're only a few weeks from the start of school. I know you've pointed to numerous studies out of Europe showing low transmission rates of the coronavirus among children. Wondering if you've seen the study out of South Korea that shows kids age
That's not what it said. Yeah, I've seen it. It's that study did not identify the index cases. So in other words, they identified clusters of people who had been infected, but they weren't able to say that it was the 13-year-old who infected somebody else. And that's the whole ball game. What they basically said is, well, some of the 13-year-olds got positive test results before the other people. Well, that doesn't mean that they infected the other people. So I think the way that that was portrayed, I think New York Times was portrayed in a way that people have taken from that something that the data just doesn't support. Iceland, I think, did the best study, because Iceland actually looked at the, and I don't even know how you would do this, they looked at the viral loads and actually looked at the DNA, and they were able to determine where the infection came from. So if you had two people and we didn't know who infected who, they would look from that type of really detailed examination, and they were showing that. And in every instance, they said that it was the adult that affected the minor. Also, I would point out one of the top epidemiologists in Britain who advises the Prime Minister, I think it's a professor at like the University of Edinburgh, recently said, look, we've not been able to identify any instance of a student age 5 to 15 infecting the teacher anywhere in the world. They haven't been able to do it. So, you know, I haven't done that study in terms of anywhere in the world, but I would think that with all the schools that have been open, and even in the midst of this, I mean, you look at a country like Sweden kept the schools open even when they were at their apex. You haven't seen a lot of child to adult transmission, whether in a school setting or not. So I think that the data on that is pretty clear. Clearly, though, I think everyone agrees, fortunately, the risk to school-age kids, for whatever reason, is very, very low compared to other pathogens like seasonal influenza even. I mean, certainly the hospitalizations and fatalities for kids would be much higher with seasonal flu than it is for COVID-19. So, but I think that it's, you know, I've been able to talk to some superintendents. We were down in Pinellas County yesterday at a school, an ESE school, where you have a lot of students with special needs. And I think having the policy that we've had is, look, parents should have a choice. If you're not comfortable sending your kid back, you shouldn't be forced to do it. We have distance learning. It's not as good as kind of the real thing, but I think Florida's done a good job of creating some good options there. But if you're a parent that really believes that in class is important, you know, you got to have the right to do that. And we also said a lot of the teachers definitely want to get back. I mean, it was amazing listening to the teachers yesterday saying, we tried online, but my kids need me. We need to get them back here. And I think that's the vast majority of teachers who really believe that. But if there's some who either are more vulnerable because of health situations, or if they just aren't comfortable, my view is let's just make do with what we have and then move forward. And I think what will happen is, you know, you'll have, you know, most parents will opt for in-person. And then as things go and as things work out, and they see that it's going to be fine, I think you'll see other parents, you know, that will want to eventually shift as well. So, but I think that the data, I think overall is just simply that schools have not been a accelerator of spread of the virus, any of the places where they've been open. And I think that would likely be the case here. And don't forget, I mean, if you have distance learning, it ain't like kids aren't going to be interacting with people. I mean, you're still going to have that. It's just going to be in a less structured, in some ways, less safe ways if it's not supervised. I mean, that's one of the powerful points some of the teachers made yesterday is, you know, people talk about, you know, the risk because you have people together, but it's like, this is where they're safe. We're looking out for our kids. We're looking out for our students. And obviously in a situation where, you know, you have children that have unique abilities, that's even more true. And so but I think it'll be, I think a lot of the folks have some really good plans, and I look forward. I don't know that all of them have been submitted yet, but I think a lot of them are going to be really well received.
Governor, just to follow up to that, a doctor on UCF's COVID task force says kind of the opposite of what you're saying, that study does prove without a doubt that 10 and up can transmit, and she says you're playing with fire. What would be your response to that?
Okay, so first of all, that's just not what it said. I mean, that was how it was portrayed by the New York Times. The people that have looked at the data have shown that the data says the opposite, or certainly doesn't show which direction the transmission occurred. But I would just say, okay, what about every other study that's been done? In Florida, you know, we've had Daycare's open. We've had summer activities going on, the entire time. But I would say, look, if you're somebody that believes that analysis as a parent, and that's something that concerns you, you have the choice to make the decision that you think is right for your kid. If you're somebody who's who's teaching and you think that that's going to be a big problem, I've said give everyone as wide a latitude as possible. Just have if people want to be there, great. If they don't, then they can contribute in other ways. And so that's why I think the choice is so powerful. They can look at the information, but I would say, the CDC, they've said that the risks of not having in person far outweighs whatever risk you would have with actually attending schools. And if you look at it with this distance learning, how many kids will just totally fall off the map after doing this for months and months and months? I mean, this was initially remember, we started this 15 days to slow the spread. It was, okay, this thing's coming at us, let's slow it down so that our hospital system could make sure we have what we need, we can get PPE, we can work on all these other things, and then we'll be able to better tackle it. It was never supposed to be just keep society in the fetal position indefinitely, because that was not something that everyone's always agreed that would not be a good approach. And so with the schools, that was done as an abundance of caution, but I don't think anyone thought at the time that would just be the indefinite situation of what's going on. So I think it's important to give the parents a choice, and I know that there's a lot of parents that really want to have that structure for their kids, and so we'll see how it shakes out. But in Pinellas County, I mean, the superintendent said they're about 2 to 1. The parents, are going to be opting for in person, which I thought was interesting. One more? Yes, sir.
Governor, we noticed this morning, spectacular launch, by the way, but we did notice a lot of folks that weren't wearing masks and other folks that were really way too close to each other. What advice would you have?
Where did you notice that at?
Right here in Titusville.
So just like the public out there?
Yeah.
Okay. So our guidelines have been that physical distancing is important. Close, sustained contact is what is the best mechanism for transmitting the virus. If you can't maintain the physical distance, wearing the mask, this may be able to stop some of the droplets. It doesn't stop them all, so don't think if you put it on you can do what you want. I mean, but it's a way to potentially interrupt some of the transmission. So I think just following those, and then obviously we want to look out for our vulnerable citizens, particularly our senior citizens, and we do want to practice proper hygiene. So if you do those 4 things, protect the vulnerable, proper hygiene, physical distancing, and then facial covering if you can't physically distance, that is going to help us be able to continue to fight this fight. And I think the trends have been good in terms of the ED visits, hospitalizations going down. Place like Brevard, the positivity's been in the single digits where it had gotten into the double digits for a week or two. So that's good, but you got to keep that going. So I think if people are doing that, I think it'll work out better for them and for all of us. And I think what most people want is, we want to have low prevalence of this. Now, it's not going to just go away. But if the prevalence is lower, I think people will feel better. I think the anxiety level will go down. I think some of the fear will go down. And I think that's good for public health just as well, because when you have a lot of people on edge, that can create a lot of other problems as well. And then obviously, we want as few people showing up to hospitals and needing medical care as we can possibly get. Clearly, if you're protecting those 65 and up, particularly at the nursing home population, the general public, under that age group tends to handle this a lot better, which is a good thing. And so I really think just that continued focus on the vulnerable population is something that's really, really important. All right. Well, thanks for coming. This is exciting stuff going on here, and we'll be back often. Thank you.
Governor, thank you.
Thank you.